So how should India react? How do we navigate the shifting tides of power and security in an uncertain world? From grand strategy to military technology, from power and conflict to the unseen forces shaping our world, and from battlefields to the halls of power, we decode the past, analyze the present, and anticipate the future of global security. I am Sandeep Unnithan, and this is the National Security Agenda. In 2021, India and Pakistan agreed to a ceasefire along the line of control. Now, this ceasefire has largely held over the past 4 years. But what happened yesterday along the LoC is worrying. Indian Army sources say the Pakistan Army soldiers, that's right, regular Pakistani Army soldiers, attempted to cross the line of control. 4 Pakistani soldiers were killed and 1 injured. Our defense spokesperson says that a mine blast occurred in the Krishna Ghati sector in Poonch due to the Pakistan Army intrusion across the LoC. This was followed by unprovoked firing and a ceasefire violation by the Pakistan Army. Our troops responded effectively in a controlled and calibrated manner. The situation is under control and being closely monitored, the defense spokesperson said. Now, this infiltration comes even as the Indian Army has raised a new division, a new infantry division, to guard the LAC in Ladakh. This is the 72 Division. It's moved a Rashtriya Rifles Counterinsurgency Force Headquarters uniform force out of Ladakh and back to Jammu. Joining me to discuss the timing of these infiltrations and the Indian Army's reorbiting in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh are Major General VK Datta and my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul. Gentlemen, welcome to the NSA. General Datta, I want to start by asking you this. You're former GOC of these 25 Div, and Krishna Ghati, where the Pakistan Army attempted to infiltrate, is part of this area. Explain to us why this Krishna Ghati area is so significant and why is the Pakistan military trying to infiltrate the LoC?
Sandeep, 25 Infantry Division holds the line of control in the Poonch Rajouri sector, and it's a very large formation with a number of units in it. And this area, particularly the Krishna Ghati, which is adjacent to the Poonch township, if you are aware of the geography, Poonch town, then you have the Poonch river, then you have the KG sector, then you come on to the Mender, and there's the Mender river, then we come to the Bhimber Gully, and then turning left towards Nowshera. So now this sector is a sector which is, I'll say, it is perennial. There is no snowfall in this sector. One can carry out infiltration anytime if he so succeeds, which they will not, because there's a very massive counterinsurgency and counter-infiltration grid in that sector. There is a fencing and there are sensors all over. Nobody can just walk over without being detected. We call something called the graduated system, in which you first get a alarm that somebody is intruded, then you get a signal whether that person is approaching in which direction, and then the qualifying signal tells you whether that man is carrying a weapon or not. Besides that, you have the infantry radar system or not. So if anybody attempts, whether day or night, to cross the line of control and try to come into the Indian sector, they will be detected and neutralized. Now, here comes the question that how come the Pak regulars made an attempt in broad daylight, almost about, say, 100 hours on Tuesday, and what was their aim and objective? Now, I personally feel that the Pakistan Army in its wildest dream will not attempt a daylight intrusion into that area because they know that this area is very well guarded. Next thing, which is very important to note, that right from 1947-48 onwards, after the conflict in J&K, this area is heavily mined. There are minefields all over. And you must be aware that they set fire to the grass so that the minefields explode and all that. So anyone who makes an attempt to come in, we ourselves do not know where all the mines are. Though we have our own safe lanes and all that. So anyone who attempts an infiltration will most likely step into an old mine or a new mine. And a new mine would be of various calibers. I don't have to share that info here. They're very lethal mines. The anti-fragmentation anti-personnel mines, which can cover an area of 30 odd meters, and anybody in that area will get knocked out.
This,
So
this
now
is
I
exactly
personally
what
feel
seems
that
to have
these
happened, General Datta. Minefield was triggered, soldiers were killed, and of course fire was exchanged. But going back to that point of infiltration that you raised, the fact that the KG area is a very critical part for infiltrating troops south of the Pir Panjal, infiltrating terrorists south of the Pir Panjal. Aditya, infiltration season has begun in Jammu and Kashmir. But the Pakistan army is facing rearguard action in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in their own backyard. How vital is it for them to destabilize Jammu and Kashmir even as we speak?
See, Pakistan deep state is as desperate as it can get, and that's what is visible through their actions in the recent times. At a time when Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa have heated up, of course, trend shows us over the last decade or so that whenever there is question mark on the Pakistan army, it's unable to handle their own situation, and things are boiling up inside Pakistan, they try to deviate attention and deflect attention towards Jammu and Kashmir. And this is what is happening yet again. Another thing is that this is the approachment of the 2025 summer. And General Asim Munir would like to in fact, take a U-turn from the handbook of General Bajwa and do whatever is possible to heat up, increase infiltration and law and order situation both in Jammu as well as in Kashmir. On your earlier question on infiltration, I can confirm to you today that the infiltration that has taken place in Kathua is from the international border and not the LoC. The terrorists of Jaish-e-Mohammed and perhaps Lashkar-e-Toiba as well have taken the route of tunnels that are underneath the international border barbed wires, and this tunneling system has been in use for years together. In the past also we have seen not just for infiltration but a lot of terrorists who are originally Kashmiri try to exfiltrate from Jammu and Kashmir towards Pakistan, as has been the trend, particularly with the Jaish-e-Mohammed and their OGWs. So this case is, very serious because there are at least 10 to 15 of these Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists who are roaming around in this Kathua belt. The two of them have been killed already, but there are plenty more who are along this region. You would remember that last year as well, a similar situation had arisen. A lot of civilians, a lot of soldiers were killed in action as well. In this particular case also, we saw initially a couple of weeks ago, 3 civilians being kidnapped and killed when they were going for a marriage party. And thereafter, again, there was an attempt to, take hostages, which quite failed. And gradually there was a contact established, but the terrorists were able to flee. As of now, a massive operation is underway across the Kathua region. The Indian Army, the SF Special Forces, and of course the CRPF and the JNK police are on it. But let me tell you that this 2025 is certainly not going to be easy because there will be various attempts made by the Pakistan Army to reactivate Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba, not just in Jammu belt but in Kashmir as well.
Right, absolutely. Very important points there from Aditya, General Datta. The fact that General Asim Munir seems to be wanting to tear up his predecessor's ceasefire plan and reactivate militants in Jammu and Kashmir. But General Datta, this is a trend that we've seen over the last year, that infiltration has moved south of the Pir Panjal. Your traditional areas of Gurez, Keren, Gulmarg and Uri have been replaced by all of these regions in Jammu. These traditional infiltration routes have given way to these new routes in the south of the Pir Panjal region. So, tell us why the Indian Army should be vigilant about this particular shift in focus that's happened over the last year. What additional measures should be taken? We are aware of the fact that uniform force has been brought back from Ladakh into Jammu for precisely this reason. General Datta?
Yeah, Sandeep, see the thing is, as far as Asim Munir is concerned, he is being beaten up black blue in Pakistan by the Baluch and the TDP and the others. Now they have lost a face in the Pakistan public. That aura of the Pakistan army no more exists now. Now the only way they can distract the local population and their sentiment is by doing something towards J&K, to say that okay, we are still trying to liberate J&K and all that. But you must remember, if you remember the statement made by the Pakistani in the United Nations Security Council, when he said that the India is not accepting the United Nations Charter on the resolution of J&K, and they were planning to invite United Nations observers in Pakistan, I think 6th or 7th of April. Now, all this tamasha which is being done by the Pakistanis to show that some action is going on the J&K front is just to highlight that J&K is still a disputed area. And they are trying to now maybe create a situation for the visit of these UN observers who are going to come to Pakistan on the invitation of Pakistanis, maybe something on the 6th or 7th of April. So that is one factor. Now the next factor is that the water flows where they find a slope. When there was a void, when the uniform force moved up towards the north to counter the Chinese, there was a void generally created by the lack of a professionally deployed force which was dominating that entire area. And that void, of course, was covered up by CRPF, police, and all that. But when you have a counter infiltration grid or a CI grid, it is very difficult to recreate it by Central Armed Police Forces or non-army units. So now, hopefully, seeing the trend, and once the uniform force is back, these guys will get beaten up in this sector also very soon. And the only thing is that if India wants to, turn the heat on Pakistan, they're being hammered by the Baluchis, the Taliban, the TDP, and all that. India can make Pakistan bleed from its nose, and maybe the Pakistani army is looking that as the saving grace that let India attack, then we'll have something to say that, we are being attacked by India and the Baluch, and the India is doing it in Baluchistan and is helping Taliban and Afghanistan. So that is an excuse. But maybe India is not going to give them that excuse. We will let them bleed on their own. We will kill anyone who comes in, and we will build up our international pressure against these guys. And the United Nations itself
trying to distract from its internal issues, projecting its troubles onto the line of control. But Aditya, tell us what your sources are telling you about this new game plan that Pakistan is up to. What are we doing to counter this?
Well, our counter-insurgency grid is as strong as ever, both along the line of control in Jammu as well as in Kashmir. I can confirm, however, that yesterday was one of the biggest ceasefire violations that Pakistan did in over 4 years. I've been observing the ceasefire agreement that happened in 2021 around Feb and March. And thereafter, there were a couple of incidents of ceasefire violation here and there. But yesterday, it was furious. I was in touch with the local CEO of the Indian Army and other boys who confirmed that it was a very intense gun battle that happened after a mine blast. There were attempts, in fact, either to sneak in terrorists in that area or a bat action. That means that, bat action is basically when the regulars of the Pakistan Army commandos actually enter the Indian territory and try to behead the soldiers. So a bat action was foiled by the Indian Army. There were at least 5 casualties that the Pakistan Army has faced in this Krishna Ghati sector. In fact, we have visual evidence of Pakistan Army soldiers being taken, in fact, airlifted to Rawalpindi, headquarters of the army. So as of now, of course, a strong vigil is being, taking place around Jammu as well as in Kashmir, where, of course, there will be attempts of infiltration in 2025. And as I've discussed earlier, there is, desperation in the Pakistan Army and the, ISI to sneak in terrorists. Recently, we saw the Hamas also sharing stage with the, Pakistani terror groups in Rawla Court of Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and to show to the world that, there is still activity happening in Jammu and Kashmir. Recently, Pakistani journalist Wajahat Khan, in fact, put out a story in which he said that in Saudi Arabia, there was a secret meeting of Americans with the Pakistani leadership in which there was pressure on Pakistan to, in fact, resolve the Kashmir so-called dispute. So we'll have to watch, interestingly, the next few months, because Trump is also known as a transactional leader. Yes. He would be transactional with India, but he would be transactional with Pakistan as well. And he would want stability and peace for more trade, business, connectivity to happen. Will that really impact South Asia? Perhaps time will tell.
Right. Very worrying trends there. The Pakistan military back to its familiar games. The deep state has been active and they have resumed sending terrorists across, and in this case, infiltrating regular troops as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Aditya Raj Kaul, Major General VK Datta. In 2019, the Defence Ministry withdrew over 60 civil appeals filed by the government in the Supreme Court against the orders of armed forces tribunals and courts in pension-related cases. Now, these were cases which ex-servicemen had won in lower courts but were being challenged by the Defence Ministry in the Supreme Court. All litigation was withdrawn from the Supreme Court and all AFT and High Court orders were implemented until 2023. But since then, the Defence Ministry has started challenging all these verdicts again. Believed to be thousands of appeals that are now pending, appeals from ex-servicemen. Joining me now on NSA is Major DP Singh, a war-wounded veteran who had to fight the system for 4 years to prove he was eligible to be treated as a battle casualty. Major DP Singh has been taking up the cause of the Defence Ministry fighting cases against disabled soldiers. Major DP, welcome to the NSA. Major DP, why is the Defence Ministry back to pursuing cases against disabled soldiers? There was a pause in 2019. There was a verdict from the Defence Minister herself asking for all these appeals to be taken back.
Where in the similar, in the same government, when two defence ministers were moving positive towards reducing the unnecessary litigation, what happened suddenly in 2023 that, the jump is in the reverse side where thousands of appeals were filed. As per my knowledge, in 2023, there were few cases which were repeatedly coming to the court, and the court had passed judgments in favor of soldiers, and when court realized that the cases are not getting implemented, they had taken a little harsh steps towards, especially the auditors and ministry, when they invited them in person and when they also, made them pay penalty in person. That is where something went wrong. Perhaps the department, the finance department and the ministry had took it maybe as a, some steps against their egos, if I can use that word. And then somebody sitting on the chair perhaps realized कि अभी हम उनको दोबारा से lesson सिखाते हैं. Because I fail to understand कि same government में दो defense minister were of the opinion which was helping everybody. Why I am saying helping everybody? Because if you are raising appeals, you are paying lakhs and rupees to the legal people who are fighting cases against these soldiers who are asking for peanuts, which is also their due, not an illegal thing.
Major DP, what do you suggest that the MOD do to make the process a little more responsive and speed it up so that the families of these disabled soldiers, the soldiers themselves, get relief at the earliest?
See, Sandeep, the issue is not about families getting immediate support in the system, because in the armed forces we have a beautiful system. As and when there is a death case of any such nature, family does get the immediate support from the regiment, from the armed forces. The issue lies here in the cases particularly where a soldier is getting disabled, which is not accepted as attributable by the army headquarters or the armed forces headquarters. That is where the issue lies. Because then he has been sent, because of he being not fit to serve further, high and dry, out of the service. Now imagine a 28, 29, 30 years old soldier going out high and dry and trying to defend himself, and maybe at times he gets married also, his family, with disability, either with a very meager pension or with no pension.
There's also this issue of conditions attributable to military service, where the rules say that there are some ailments which cannot be attributed to military service and therefore you don't get pensions for that. What's your take on that?
Hypertension, heart attack are the things which were incorporated in the normal disability pension earlier, because there was a liberalized view towards these things, that if a forces personnel is employed or designated at a duty in the harsh areas, there is a likelihood of him or her getting such ailments. But they say, नहीं, तुम तो फौजी हो यार, तुम तो फिट हो, तुम इतने सुपर हीरो हो कि तुम्हारे को हार्ट अटैक हो ही नहीं सकता. अगर हो गया, that means it is your fault, not
Right.
the fault of services, the conditions.
So these are conditions attributable to military service.
Exactly. Those, so the disability which used to earlier, maybe for hypertension, it used to be around 30% or so, has been reduced drastically to 5%, because anything less than 20%, you are not liable to get the pension or disability part of the pension. So smartly, the rules have been changed to bring it down to such percentage that it has been given to you as a disability, but you are not getting any financial benefit out of it. So I fail to understand why this smartness has, from where this smartness is coming to.
Major DP, thank you for joining us. We can only hope that the Defense Ministry takes a more lenient view when it comes to our soldiers who've been giving their best years and their life and their limbs to defend the country. In a significant operation on the 2nd of April 2025, the Indian Navy's frontline frigate INS Tarkash seized over 2.5 tons of drugs in the Western Indian Ocean. Now, this seizure includes hashish and heroin, but it was the latest in India's intensified efforts in combating drug trafficking. Last year, law enforcement agencies confiscated drugs worth 25,000 crore. That's a 55% increase from the previous year, 2023. Let's look at a few of these cases. In February 2024, the NCB, Navy and Gujarat Anti-Terrorism Force captured 3.3 tons of drugs, hashish, meth and heroin off the Gujarat coast. In April last year, a maritime operation led to the seizure of 86 kilos of heroin from a foreign vessel. 14 Pakistani nationals were arrested. In November 2024, an international drug cartel was dismantled and 700 kilos of meth were captured in the seas of Gujarat. Now, all of these figures reflect India's escalating war on drugs, a battle that has shifted from land to the sea, with the Indian Navy and the Coast Guard at the forefront. Now, the nation's proximity to regions with high drug production, the Golden Triangle on one hand and the Golden Crescent on the other, has made India susceptible to trafficking. This has necessitated a robust maritime security preparedness. Now, the human cost of drug abuse in India is alarming. In Kashmir, a study revealed that 2.8% of the population has engaged in substance abuse, with over 52,000 individuals currently dependent on drugs. Punjab's rural areas report a substance abuse prevalence of 65%, with heroin being used by 20% of the population. That's nearly 1/4 of the population. The Northeast, particularly states like Nagaland and Manipur, also grapple with high rates of drug addiction, exacerbated by their proximity to the Golden Triangle, a major drug-producing area. In 2024, Kerala reported nearly 3,000 children being admitted to drug de-addiction centers. That figure is a 45% jump over the previous year. Beyond the human cost of drugs, the nexus between drug trafficking and terrorism poses a grave threat to India's national security. Funds generated from narcotics trade often finance terrorist activities, destabilizing regions and endangering lives. By intercepting drug shipments, the Indian Navy and the Coast Guard are not only curbing the flow of narcotics but also disrupting the financial networks of terrorist organizations. Furthermore, the nation's security forces are striking at the very economic foundations of narco-terrorism, targeting the illicit business ventures that fund violence and instability. India is waging a war on drugs, and this is a war we must win to safeguard our nation's youth, ensure public health, and maintain national security. That's all for tonight. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with more insights and analysis on the national security agenda.